Today, we're stepping into a crime scene, but it's not what you might think. The most important evidence isn't a footprint or a fingerprint, but a timestamp. So forget the magnifying glass. We're diving into the world of digital forensics, where every single clue is hidden in a sea of bits and bytes. Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that gets to the absolute heart of the matter. Imagine this. Investigators show up to a crime scene, and there it is, the suspect's laptop, just sitting on a desk. It could hold everything they need to crack the case. So, can they just open it up and start looking? It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer is legally and technically incredibly complicated. And that simple question actually reveals a fundamental principle of modern investigations. A laptop at a crime scene? It's not just a piece of hardware. You have to think of it as a fragile, legally protected, and unbelievably dense collection of evidence. Every single click can either uncover a lead or destroy a clue forever. So back to our question, can they search that laptop? Well, the default answer, because of our fundamental right to privacy, is a firm no. But, and this is a huge but, that no comes with a big maybe. See, under some very specific exceptions, law enforcement can get access, and that's where the real story begins. Before a single file can be examined, investigators have to clear their first and most important hurdle, getting legal authority. It all boils down to one simple question. Do they have a warrant or not? And the answer to that question dictates every single step that comes after. The entire legal framework for digital privacy in the US rests on this single, powerful sentence. The Fourth Amendment is the bedrock. It treats your digital effects, like your computer or your phone, with the exact same protection as your physical house. Investigators can't just barge in without a really good, legally sound reason.
And this brings us to a really key legal concept, the closed container. The Supreme Court basically views your computer not as a single object, but more like a locked filing cabinet. Police might be able to seize the whole cabinet if they have cause, sure, but they need a separate warrant to legally open the drawers and start looking through the files inside.
So what are those exceptions that maybe we talked about? Well, first, there's consent. If you say yes, you can search, they can search. Second, what are called exigent circumstances. That's a fancy term for an emergency, like if they see data is actively being wiped from the screen. Third is the plain view doctrine. If illegal material is just sitting there on the screen when they walk in, they don't need a warrant for that evidence. And finally, there are workplace searches. Company-owned devices often fall under completely different rules. All right, so let's say the legal right to seize a device is established. Now, the focus shifts from the courtroom to the crime scene itself. And the investigators' first actions here are absolutely critical. They can literally make or break the entire case. So the first thing to know is this simple but totally non-negotiable rule. It might sound a little weird, but changing the state of a device is the cardinal sin of digital forensics. Powering down a running computer can wipe out a treasure trove of temporary data, and powering on a device that's off can alter timestamps and change critical system files. You just don't touch that power button. The on-scene game plan is meticulous. First, you secure and isolate every single electronic device. Laptops, phones, tablets, you name it. Nothing gets touched. Then, you document everything. We're talking photos, diagrams showing which cables are plugged into which ports. The whole goal is to preserve that digital crime scene exactly as it was found, following that one golden rule: don't change a thing. So why is that golden rule so incredibly important? It's because of something called data volatility. Think of it like this. The data in a computer's active memory, its temporary workspace called registers and cache, it's like footprints in the sand. It's super valuable because it shows what was happening right now, but it vanishes the second the power is cut. That's why it's the #1 priority. The data on the hard drive, though, that's more like a message carved in stone. It's way more stable, so it can be collected later. Okay, so the scene is secure, the evidence is prioritized based on how fragile it is. Now we get to the main event, creating a perfect copy of the digital evidence. This is really the technical heart of the investigation, and precision is everything. Investigators have two main ways of doing this. For a computer that's running, they perform what's called a live acquisition to capture all that fleeting footprints in the sand data. What programs were open, what was in memory. But for a computer that's turned off, they do a static acquisition, which is all about getting a perfect copy of that permanent carved-in-stone data on the hard drive. And the result of this whole process is something called a forensic image.
Now, this is so important to understand. This is not like just dragging a folder to a USB drive. A forensic image is a perfect mirror image clone of the original source. It captures every single 1 and 0, including all the empty spaces and, crucially, all the files you thought you deleted.
And here's why that's such a big deal. If you just copy and paste the My Documents folder, you're only getting the stuff the operating system wants you to see. You miss everything else. Deleted files, fragments of old data, hidden partitions. That's often where the smoking gun is hiding, and only a true forensic copy can capture it. Then all the analysis is done on this copy, so the original evidence is left completely untouched and pristine. So, let's bring this all together. We've talked about the legal hurdles, the on-scene procedures, and the technical side of making a perfect copy. But why? Why is this incredibly meticulous process so unbelievably important?
Well, the goal of all this work is really twofold. It's about creating a piece of evidence that is so perfectly preserved and copied that it can stand up to the toughest challenges in a courtroom. This makes sure that the evidence is reliable enough to convict someone who's guilty, while at the same time, all those strict rules and procedures, like needing a warrant, are there to protect the fundamental privacy rights of the innocent. It's a balancing act.
And all of this leaves us with a final thought, a really big question for the future. We've been talking about laptops and hard drives, things you can physically hold. But today, so much of our most sensitive data, our emails, our photos, our private documents, it all lives in the cloud, on servers scattered across the globe. So the real question becomes, when a crime involves the cloud, where exactly is the digital crime scene? And how do we draw the line to protect our privacy in a world that has no digital borders?